What makes a space interesting and dynamic? Why is it that you can look at one space and you feel absolutely nothing? You don't feel a sense of wonder, you don't feel inspired, and you look at another space and you just feel a sense of wow, for lack of a better word. So the answer might surprise you because there's actually certain principles that you can apply to achieve this. And it is something that is an interesting topic because it's so vague and we know it when we see it, but sometimes we don't understand why is it that this space definitely doesn't have it and this space definitely is visually compelling. So I'm gonna break down some of that for you today. So the first principle about creating a visually compelling space is making sure that it has an element that is unexpected. Now, when we think about especially outdoor design, we think, okay, I have my swimming pool, I have my spa, and maybe I can throw in a funky shape on the pool, and maybe that'll make it interesting, but typically it doesn't do the trick. So what do I mean by unexpected? So in our practice here at Foxterra Design, that is something we really try to consider for every design is how can I add an element of the unexpected. Here, this design that I'm about to show you is a perfect example of that. So this client came and said, I have been so inspired by my travels in Mexico, visiting actual cenotes. So a cenote, to put it very simply, is a cavern that's filled with water. As you can see, they're really, really cool spaces. So how could we transform this into this residential backyard? Obviously, we have to make it a very abstract concept, but we were really inspired by that. So we created this large kind of enveloping structure that hangs right over the water to create the sense of that the water, actually though the water is fully exposed, that it's somewhat covered, and thinking about, like I said, the concept of cenote in the abstract to create this space. And the effect, like I said, it's very unexpected because you have this outdoor living room that's kind of right on top of the water. It's very subtle. Like I said, it's very abstract if you think of the term of what actual cenote is, but it's still really, when you see it, it packs that visual impact. So it's very important that you have an element of the unexpected, even if it's something like taking a very abstract concept and putting in your yard. Another example is this beautiful Bali-inspired bridge. So I'm sure many are familiar with these resorts that are built with the rooms right over the water, and they have these amazing wooden bridges. So as you can see here, this client definitely wanted that in their backyard, and we were able to create that in an abstract form. But this is a pretty small space, and like I said, just to give that winding wooden path really creates that sense of being in Bali, in the abstract. A second principle that is so important to creating a visually compelling space is adding an element of explorability. Now, this is something where you may feel like, I have such a small space. How am I going to create a sense of exploration? Well, it's about playing with illusions, and that's something we love to do at Foxterra, is regardless if you have a postage stamp sized yard, how can we create a sense of dimension where you can't see everything in one space? You have to go into the yard and explore it and go from space to space. And anytime we can create a hidden room per se, even if it's not an actual room, but it's something where you're moving from one space into another, that is so visually compelling when your eye cannot take it all in at one go. So this yard was inspired by Santorini, but what I love about it is that the space is not huge, but there's a sense of what's over here. And this yard is broken down into so many zones. They're very cohesive and they flow from space to space seamlessly, but it makes you want to go, I want to go over here and see what's over, oh, what's that over there? Every space you go, there's something else to see beyond it. So if you want to create a visually compelling space, make sure you add layers and spaces to explore within the yard. All right, and my final tip for creating a visually compelling space, and this is going to be my most specific one. Maybe you're watching the other two, you're like, those are great, Nate, but those are just really abstract concepts. Give me something concrete in black and white that I can slap down in my yard to create that visually compelling space. So if there is only one thing that will give you that compelling sense of emotion, if there's one thing that you do, and this will always work, it's about combining fire and water together. And this is something your eye, I think it's just because you're seeing two natural elements side by side. It's unique, it's calming, it's awe-inspiring depending on how grand it is. But if you want a very specific thing to do in your backyard to create that, it can be something as simple as a water feature that has fire coming out of it. It can be on a grander scale, the fire incorporated into the pool or into the spa. But if you really analyze specifically our designs, I know when our client says, I want this wow factor, that's one thing that every single one can agree on. When you combine these two elements, more than anything else, that just creates that visual, dynamic, beautiful sensory experience. So if there's one thing you do, make sure to find a way to combine fire and water in your yard, and you're gonna have something visually stunning to look at. So to sum it up, good design is about understanding how to put these abstract concepts together to create a really visually amazing space. And I know as a designer, and for all the designers on the Foxterra team, we live, eat, and breathe this. I literally will dream about designs. I will do designs that don't even exist in my head. It is something that we are truly obsessed with. And what our obsession is seeing spaces come to life. So click here for more design advice, including some impressive yard transformations. And if you're ready for a makeover for your yard, here's a link in the description box to book a free design consultation call with our team.